Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Monday's edition of the dceu Daily. Remember, you can tag me and add me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Now, I have loads of articles to read to you today and a new Gods update as well. But first, I want to give you my hot take on something because I think this is important to me now. It seems to me that us in the Snyderverse fandom are always looking for a divisive conversation, something to hate each other over and not be able to constructively have a conversation, and accusations are made. So I want to talk about this Snyder Cut versus Zack Snyder's Justice League thing. It's something that's been getting on my nerves for a very long time. So the other day when we had official confirmation that Zack Snyder's Justice League would release on March the 18th, we had an event called Snyderverse. Snyder Cut, hashtag Snyder Cut. It trended, it did amazingly, and I'm proud of you all for helping that happen. But here's the thing, now there's this argument, Snyder Cut or Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, for me, I would rather use Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, why is that? So again, I'm going to explain to you why that is, and instead of bringing in the insults and being aggressive, be constructive in the comments down below so we can all still be friends. Zack Snyder's Justice League does two things. It says that it's Zack Snyder's, and it says the words Justice League. It's perfect. It's a perfect storm. But some people want the Snyder Cut to be used. In fact, I think most people, or some people, well, no, not most people, by the way. This is kind of in the middle right now. Some people would prefer if the film wasn't called Zack Snyder's Justice League and it was called Snyder Cut. Now, just calling it the Snyder Cut, and let's be clear, Snyder Cut was a great tag for fighting for Zack's cut of Justice League. And I used it a lot and I love it. I think it's very inventive and creative and it's brilliant. Now, if you want to call it the Snyder Cut, we live in a democracy in a free world to call it Snyder Cut. You don't have to call it Zack Snyder's Justice League. I just would prefer it. As I say, I'm a fully rounded DC fan, but I like Zack's take on these DC characters as well. And I just feel that Zack Snyder's Justice League, as I say, is the perfect storm because it explains everything. This is Zack Snyder's Justice League. But it seems to me people who are aggressively going after it to be named Snyder Cut or to keep on doing these events. Now, we're having an event later on today. Or no, I'm actually recording this video on a Sunday, but by the time you see this video, I think either will be in the middle of this event because there's another event for Zack's Justice League movie. And now originally it was going to be called Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now I think they're going with Snyder Cut. So that's pretty passive-aggressive if you ask me. It seems to me that these people that want to tag all the events in Snyder Cut want to cut out the DC element from this movie. It's like they just want to say this is Zack's baby and nothing to do with DC. And that kind of triggers me. That triggers me, yes, because I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is perfect. Now, I'm not from TPZ, if any of you know who that is. It's a group of people, mostly with really successful YouTube accounts. I'm not from any group. The only group I'm from, and the agenda I'm from, is my own agenda. And I just feel that Zack Snyder's Justice League is the perfect thing to call it. I am not saying you can't call it the Snyder Cut. I'm just saying, and I've even checked, Zack Snyder's Justice League is trending just as well as Snyder Cut. Now, I think it was Fiona that asked the other day, why can't we tag in the event Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Snyder Cut? Someone said that confuses the trends. So I don't know if that's true or not. I just think that some people are not happy unless there's some kind of battle to fight. And it's triggering because I just feel Zack Snyder's Justice League is perfect. Now, it's weird, isn't it? One moment, the actual studio are calling it Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then it's being called the Snyder Cut in the trailers. I think that's part of the problem as well. we don't know where officially where we stand with this situation. Personally, again, I think we could call it both. We could call it Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Snyder Cut. It doesn't, look, it's not a big deal as such. It's just kind of somewhat disappointing that people are trying to erase the title Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because, as I say, I think it's perfect. I think it's the perfect thing to call it. It's got Zack's name on it, so we know it's Zack's, right? So that's fair, because this is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is nothing to do with Justice League, which is great. We call Justice League because it's literally Joss Whedon's film. It's a terrible film, and we don't want anyone to be confused that that film's anything to do with Zack, even though they just do use elements of Zack's footage in the film, but with no context. It wasn't, you know, Zack didn't shoot those sequences to be told in the narrative and context of what Joss Whedon and the studio and Kevin Sujihara wanted to do, which was kind of a fun, smiley, short Justice League movie. We understand that. But I just think that we can call it the Snyder Cut and Zack Snyder's Justice League, where we don't have to go at each other, whether it's one or the other. So I just thought I'd like to put that out there, and I'd like your constructive, polite feedback on that one. I've said before, when I started this video today, some people just love some divisive kind of conversations. And it seems like Ray Fisher is a bit like that. He seems to be at war with someone all the time. And there seems to be an issue between Ray Fisher and the journalist Sean O'Connell. Take a listen to this. This is what Sean had to say. Ray told me on September the 8th that it wasn't the move for me right now, but that I appreciate you asking. We moved forward knowing that he couldn't do it and just decided to do the book without a foreword. At RTSC book. Right. This comes from a question from someone called Jack at Hybrid Prophecy. How come Ray Fisher wasn't able to write the foreword in the end? Just lack of time? Question mark. So this is when Sean explains the situation, as I've just read to you. Now, I had no idea that Ray Fisher was supposed to do a foreword. Why would Ray Fisher? What importance does Ray Fisher have? That it's not, you know, this is nothing to do with Ray, really, is it? I know maybe he's interviewed Ray and Ray's got a bit in this because it is all to do with the story of the Snyder Cut. But does it matter if Ray did a foreword or not? Anyway, this is what Ray Fisher had to say in response to what I've just read out. This is in response to what Sean O'Connell said. Please delete this and refrain from publicly misrepresenting our conversation. Again, that's a really triggered, a gaslit post. You know, why have you publicly quote tweeted the guy? So if Sean's purposely misrepresented your conversation, I understand that. But why do you have to embarrass him in front of everyone? Why do you have to turn him against the whole fandom? This is my problem with Ray Fisher. I think it's great that he fought for that investigation and he got it. That was justice and that was important. But there's no need for this, Ray. This is about private conversations. This is exactly why I didn't like what you did to Walter Hamada. I was going to quote tweet this, but I didn't want to get blocked by him because obviously for me and what I do here on YouTube, it's important to know what the guy's saying. But I was going to quote tweet and say, well, while he's going after Sean, he's leaving Walter Hamada alone. But yeah, so again, really disappointing from Ray. Ray, you need some lessons in etiquette. And the way to deal with your issues, whatever's going on here, you could have inboxed him or emailed him and spoke to the guy in private. By doing this, you've set the whole fan base or the rabid part of the fan base after Sean now, and that simply isn't fair. Shazam 2 starts filming in May 2021. This is by Saeed, and we're not going to say his double-barreled name because I can't read it. Shazam Fury of the Gods actress Megan Good, who plays Darla Dudley's adult form, has confirmed filming on the DCEU sequel will begin in May. Very good news. Shazam Fury of the Gods will commence filming in May, according to star Megan Good, directed by David F. Sandberg. The first Shazam movie was a rousing success at the box office and among critics. The movie marked the DC debut of Asher Angel's Billy Batson, an orphan teenager who acquires the ability to transform into an adult superhero, Zachary Levi. At the end of Shazam, Billy passes his supernatural abilities along to his siblings, who then help him take down the 7 deadly sins and Dr. Savannah, Mark Strong. One of Billy's siblings in the movie is Faith Herman's good-natured Darla Dudley, whose adult version is portrayed by Good. Both Herman and Good have been confirmed to return for the upcoming Shazam sequel. Ever since it's announced in April 2019, Shazam Fury of the Gods has undergone multiple delays. The film was first tipped to release on April 4th, 2022, but due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the US, it was delayed until November the 4th, 2022. Then in October 2020, the film was delayed even further, with its premiere date moving to June the 2nd, 2023, before the film's latest rescheduling. Levi had stated that the sequel would begin filming in early 2021, but logically, due to the persistent reprogramming, the production plans were affected, and now the movie is expected to begin filming this summer. Recently, Megan Good appeared on the Carlos Watson show via Shazam Updates and confirmed the plan is for Shazam 2 to begin filming this summer. In the interview, Good talked about her upcoming schedule, revealing that Shazam Fury of the Gods is targeting an early summer 2021 date to commence filming. God willing, and by the grace of God, Shazam 2 starts in May, said Good, affirming that the highly anticipated DC sequel will begin shooting almost 2 years before its theatrical release. Now, David F. Sandberg actually was talking to a few fans about this. He goes, just because we're releasing late, it doesn't mean we can't start filming and production when we were supposed to anyway. So that's good news. I don't believe this film's going to be released on the date they're telling us. It wouldn't surprise me if this becomes maybe more of an exclusive HBO Max property because of its lack of box office potential. It's still going to, if it was released in the old-fashioned way, it'd still make good money. But if they want to put it out earlier, they may look at doing this or maybe releasing it in a similar window to what they're doing now on HBO Max and in movie theatres where open. I do expect this film eventually to be released slightly earlier, maybe in 2022 rather than 2023, but we will see. Previously, both Levi and Sandberg have voiced their concerns over Shazam 2's postponed release, since the new movie will premiere 4 years after the original one. The director fears that fans will lose interest in the franchise during the gap. Additionally, there is the issue of the younger actors. As Levi has jokingly mentioned in some recent interviews, Shazam's young cast is growing up fast. So if the movie doesn't start shooting soon, the teenagers would become full-grown adults. And this is why they're shooting on schedule. They'll probably maybe even shoot number 3 before we see number 2 if it stays for a 2023 release, because they've got to keep, get this done while these kids look young. It's a bit of the Harry Potter kind of syndrome, isn't it? With when they were young and they were worried about them looking too much older. As per Good's statement, there are only a few months left before production on the long-awaited Shazam sequel takes off. This means that soon the movie will cast the much-speculated mysterious sisters trio, who will reportedly serve as the new villains in Shazam 2. Moreover, ever since the sequel has been announced, there has been no word about which supporting cast members are returning and which ones are sitting out. So hopefully now the filmmakers announced if the likes of Mark Strong, DJ Katrona and Michelle Wolf are returning for the sequel. May overall sounds like an appropriate time to start shooting, because likely by then the vaccine rollout will be in full swing and the pandemic will be under some control. That said, fans can now gear up to hear some exciting updates about Shazam Fury of the Gods, as there is sure to be plenty once the film starts shooting. So very exciting. May of this year, Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods starts shooting. Now, if you haven't heard, in terms of the pandemic, the American government and Johnson & Johnson have developed an effective one-shot vaccine, which is about 89% effective. This will be the first vaccine where you only need one injection. This is not a cure, of course, and this is to make sure that people don't become so ill they end up in hospitals. And so basically, if you do get it, you'll probably be asymptomatic where you won't know you've got it, or you may have a few symptoms, but you won't have to go into hospital. So this is a good thing, but it should protect people from getting the symptoms, but it's not a cure. This means this is more effective because governments globally around the world are more concerned about hospitals being overpopulated than actually curing this thing. I don't even know if they can cure it or ever will. It may be a bit like the common cold. So that's really good news. So hopefully after this year we can reopen movie theatres and go back to the old system so Christopher Nolan can stop crying. I like it when we read a few articles and look at the other ends of the DC Extended Universe. And still on Shazam, Shazam's silly social media joke actually makes him more likeable by Kristen. Let's just say Kristen again, because everyone seems to... Why can't everyone be called Meanus, like me? Meanus rhymes with you-know-what. Easy to say. Or Smith or something, never mind. References to social media trends in movies can be grating, but in Shazam, the titular hero's YouTube stardom makes him more likeable and realistic. I don't mind that. When I saw that, I just thought, yeah, that's cool. He's becoming a bit famous. People know who he is, which is kind of important. I think that's the problem with Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman's DCEU version. Gal's brilliant, but they're still not calling her Wonder Woman. Did I hear someone in the film actually call her Wonder Woman? I think a reporter did. And if you close your ears quickly, you'll miss it. Go back and watch it. I think it's at the start of the film after the male sequence. Check it out anyway. Shazam is a movie that never lets the audience forget its titular hero is a social media savvy kid, and the joke makes it all the more enjoyable. The 2019 film was the 7th entry into the DC Extended Universe, but Shazam himself dates back to 1941, originally published by Fawcett Comics with the title of Captain Marvel. The series chronicled the adventures of Billy Batson, a young boy living a double life as an adult superhero. He was first given his abilities by the wizard Shazam, who chose Billy as his successor. By speaking the name Shazam, the ordinary Billy transformed into his superpowered alter ego with invulnerability, flight, and control over lightning. Though a copyright infringement lawsuit ended Shazam's original run in 1953, DC later acquired the rights for the character, leading to his revival and eventually the David F. Sandberg directed film. Shazam brought the World War II era character into modern times. The movie's version of Billy Batson, Asher Angel, is a teenager whose years shuffling through the foster system left him with a chip on his shoulder, caring little for anyone other than himself and his long-lost mother. When he first becomes Shazam, Zachary Levi, Billy initially doesn't have any real desire to help people in the way one would expect of a superhero. Instead, he and his foster brother Freddie, Jack Dylan Grazer, take to social media, broadcasting Billy's newfound abilities for the world to see. While Shazam flexing his powers on YouTube could easily be framed as selfish or annoying, his showboating actually makes the character all the more endearing. His reaction to getting superpowers is closer to what most people would have, especially a teenager like Billy, and is a welcome contrast to superhero movies that portray powers as a great burden. But ultimately, if I had superpowers at first, it would be awesome, but then I would feel the consequences and the great responsibility. So they are both, they're kind of heaven sent, but they are a burden as well, of course. And actually, in the second part of the film, they do become a bit of a burden because Dr. Savannah comes after this young kid ultimately and puts his foster family in danger. So I think Shazam depicts both kind of elements of being a superhero and having superpowers. Billy's transformation into a superhero is only physical, not mental. His social media use is another humorous reminder that he's still just a regular teenager in a grown man's body. Shazam takes full comedic advantage of its hero being a kid in the body of a muscle-bound superhero. Rather than Shazam being an entirely separate personality, along with becoming a viral internet star, Billy tries and fails to buy a beer as Shazam and make money off his new identity, all of which are more realistic. Outcomes for a 14-year-old suddenly getting superpowers than suddenly taking on a noble quest to protect the innocent. The silliness of Shazam's early antics on social media added to the general light-hearted sense of fun about the character. He had been rooted in whimsy since his inception, and keeping the same tone for the movie made it a standout chapter of the DCEU. Some wouldn't agree with that. I'm not sure if I agree with that. It's definitely, look, it's definitely a good film, and it's definitely for the family audience. And I think the DC Extended Universe should have a mixture of films for different audiences. So I'm cool with Shazam of the DCEU. In a franchise known for its darkness, scenes like Shazam gleefully shooting his textbooks with lightning for YouTube were a breath of fresh air. His more playful every kid traits are his greatest strengths in a lineup of royal and godlike heroes, as they only make the audience root for him more. Seeing how different Billy Batson is from the DCEU's other superhumans makes the prospect of him meeting them in future movies all the more exciting. Exactly. The levity Shazam brings to the table would create an interesting comedic dynamic with brooding figures like Batman, though the moral conundrum of getting a 14-year-old involved with threats against humanity could still hang over potential team-ups, as the upcoming sequel, Shazam Fury of the Gods, is set to further solidify Billy Batson's connections with the DCEU at large. Billy may develop more issues with his secret identity than simply keeping it a secret. A good little article there, and I like it, yeah. Look, Shazam's a light and fluffy movie, but it also can be scary at times, and I think it doesn't kind of insult children's intelligence. This kid hasn't had a good life. He was rejected from his mum, but he thinks the sun shines out of his mum's bum until he finds out what she did and that she lost him on purpose. It's a really good little movie. It's a good little family movie. It's not, for me, it's not the best superhero movie ever, but it slots into the DC Extended Universe puzzle, and I love that. Justice League Snyder Cut DP says it's the only Justice League movie. Cinematographer Fabian Wagner calls the highly anticipated Snyder Cut the only Justice League movie, though he worked on both versions. Ah, that's interesting. Fabian Wagner, the cinematographer on Justice League, I think they actually corrected themselves on Twitter later on. I don't think he did work on Justice League, by the way. Anyway, Fabian Wagner, the cinematographer of Justice League, is calling the upcoming Snyder Cut the only Justice League movie. Wagner is credited as the DP on both the 2017 theatrical release and Zack Snyder's soon-to-be-released cut, although he did not participate in Joss Whedon's reshoots. Yeah, let's get that straight. Wagner is also known for lensing several episodes of Game of Thrones and the film Victor Frankenstein. So he's one of the best, basically. With the date of March the 18th finally set for the long-awaited release of the Snyder Cut, the official promotions have begun. Snyder was the original director of 2017's Justice League before he had to step away due to a family emergency. Whedon took over the direction of the film and did a significant amount of reshoots, many with the aim of lightening the film's tone. Justice League performed poorly at both the box office and with critics, and Snyder fans have been rallying for Snyder's original vision ever since. Warner Bros. First confirmed in May 2020 that the Snyder Cut would finally materialise via HBO Max, and now the premiere is right round the corner. Though the Snyder Cut was originally planned as a 4-part miniseries, it will now be released as a standalone movie, the right decision, and it will reportedly be 4 hours long. Yeah, with the credits, it's more than that. Wagner made his opinion about the Snyder Cut clear when he posted one of his new posters for the film to his Instagram earlier today with the caption, Zack Snyder's Justice League, the only Justice League. Well said, Fabian. The poster is one of the 3 new images that Snyder also posted to his Twitter account today. Check out Wagner's post below. So basically, this is the poster again, and it's beautiful. One of the posters, of course, there's actually 3. It's got a good look. And then, actually, I have to click onto it, and we don't want to be doing that. You can go and find him on Instagram if you want. But basically, it says Zack Snyder's Justice League, the only Justice League, and quite right so, and quite right too. Now that Warner Bros. Is in fully on marketing mode with the new posters and the official release date, a new trailer for the Snyder Cut is also set to release soon. The highly anticipated release will kick off a full year of WB's release that will hit the HBO Max platform the same day as theatres. Other upcoming titles include Godzilla vs. King Kong, Space Jam: A New Legacy, In the Heights, and The Suicide Squad. For now, it's unclear if the Snyder Cut will ever get a theatrical release or if it will only reside on HBO Max. I think what we're going to find is this is obviously going to stay on HBO Max, I think, for the foreseeable. I'm not sure about that, by the way. I think maybe a month or 2 down the line, we may get a few theatres showing it too. then I think maybe in April or May we will get the Blu-ray and the 4Ks, which is very exciting because I can't wait to have the hard copy of this film. With less than 2 months before the Justice League Snyder Cut release, it's clear that people may have differing opinions about which version is the best. With the immense amount of drama surrounding Whedon and his version, it's understandable why Wagner would want to distance himself from it, in addition to wanting to promote the upcoming release. After so much anticipation, the team has definitely set the bar of expectation high, especially considering that Snyder has said he has no plans to continue his original DCEU story, so this could be his final impression on the franchise. Here's hoping that the Snyder Cut lives up to the hype. Right. Here's the correction, by the way. Correction. An earlier version of this article stated Wagner served as DP on both Snyder and Whedon's version of Justice League, but has been changed to clarify Wagner is only credited as DP on the 2017 theatrical version and did not participate in the movie's reshoots. Yeah, something like that would have pissed off Fabian, to no end, and I can understand. Now, they did finish this article off saying that Zack said he has no plans to do more. Zack can't have plans to do anything unless the studio and the company give him permission to. He wants to do it. Let's be absolutely clear about that. It's all about how this film does. And I have no doubt or question, no matter what people's opinions of this film, it's going to do really, really well for Warner Brothers financially. So we should be getting a lot more from the Snyderverse, fingers crossed. Now, this is the story that actually attracted me to Screen Rant today, and this is why I found all these other articles, and I thought, let's have an article day today, why not? So this is big. New Gods movie co-writer says film will honour Jack Kirby's creations. Quite right, too. New Gods is one of the best things from DC, and Jack Kirby, of course, worked for both Marvel and DC. So let's see what comic book legend Tom King had to say about this. And although I'm sceptical about Ava DuVernay directing this movie and co-writing this movie, I'm happy that Tom King is attached and they actually have a very close friendship. So I hope Ava does a great job, and I hope that Tom King steers her in the right way. Comics writer Tom King says the DC film, which he's co-writing with director Ava DuVernay, will respect legendary comics godfather Jack Kirby. Tom King, a comics book scribe who is co-writing DC's New Gods movie with director Ava DuVernay, says the film will honour the vision of the character's legendary creator Jack Kirby. The protagonists of Kirby's fourth World Series are the fourth generation of gods. The new film will chart the galactic war spanning the planets of New Genesis and Apocalypse, and see heroes such as Mr. Miracle and Big Barda taking on the villainous Darkseid, who will seek to eliminate free will across the known universe. Now, this is kind of interesting because we're kind of dealing with this, aren't we, with Zack Snyder's Justice League? Will they use someone different for Darkseid, or will Ray Porter, and I hope Ray Porter does get the role, and fans need to talk to Ava. Ava's another one who's got me blocked on Twitter because I didn't like her Disney movie, unfortunately, but she's a prolific creative and she's doing very well for herself. So I want her to do a great movie. I'm a DC fan. Welcome to the family, Ava, and please unblock me. Let's be friends. Let's not block people just because they don't like something that we made. Come on, let's be adults here. Anyway, DuVernay, who is the first black female director to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture for Selma, as well as the director of the upcoming HBO Max dystopian miniseries DMZ, based the comics of the same name, asked for DC for a chance to bring the New Gods to the big screen. King, a two-time Eisner Award winner who has written for Batman and Mr. Miracle, makes his screenwriting debut as DuVernay's co-writer. The film has been in the works for quite a long time and is no doubt being buffeted by the pandemic that has affected DC's whole lineup. But the excellent talent behind the scenes bodes well for the New Gods when it eventually does come out. Speaking on the comicbook.com Phase Zero podcast, King said that he and DuVernay will be sure to honour Kirby's genius in the script. King described the process of working on the film with DuVernay, calling it a joy. King said that DuVernay is focused on the emotional core of the characters, quite right too, and the uniquely complex relationships that Kirby wrote for them. Check out his full quote below. To give a movie like New Gods to a visionary director like Ava To me, Jack Kirby and Ava are very similar creators. Wow, that's a big thing to say, Tom. They come from similar places and they have sort of parallel histories. And I feel like I'm just the person meeting these two people together so they can create something that's unique. Working with Ava is a joy. She's incredibly focused on the emotional core of these characters. It's been fun. I've never written a movie before now. I've done some TV. None of it ever comes out. Hollywood's a weird place, but I've done some of that, but this is my first sort of big, huge movie with space battles and all that stuff. It's a ball. As long as we focus on the core Jack Kirby relationships that he created that make it good, it's going to be a good movie. That's where Ava and I both are. Wow. Following in the footsteps of a master is always a smart decision, as Kirby's creation continued to entertain millions. Once a frequent collaborator with Stan Lee, Kirby originated Captain America and helped to bring the Fantastic Four, X-Men, Hulk and Iron Man to life. Kirby originally envisioned the new gods as characters in the Thor comics for Marvel. That's interesting. With Thor, Loki and Odin among the old gods, who destroyed one version of the world during Ragnarok. Kirby and Lee famously had a falling out over Kirby not receiving proper compensation for his many contributions to the Marvel Universe. His knack for storytelling continued to shine through in his move to DC. So, thank you for being a greedy bastard, Stan Lee, as much as I love you and you're a pioneer. Otherwise, New Gods wouldn't be a DC property. The New Gods still appear to this day in DC Universe. One of their ranks just recently saved the Suicide Squad, and Darkseid played a humorous supporting role in the Harley Quinn animated series on HBO Max. Across Marvel and DC properties, Kirby's characters are still iconic figure in pop culture. King and Duvernay are exceedingly talented individuals, and they are wisely following a golden rule in storytelling. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Absolutely. So I haven't been very confident about this project even happening before. Hearing Tom King speak here about Ava and their plans to, respect what Kirby did originally with these characters really does excite me. I still have doubts if this is ever going to happen. Don't forget, Tom's even said nothing he's ever done in live action has ever happened. But fingers crossed we can still get this movie, because it should be a mammoth, a visual, emotional delight. And yet another article, Justice League Snyder Cut confirmed to have existed since 2019. Now, this is an interesting article by Mary Kate Carr. I can read that one. Welcome to Big Mouth in the DCEU Daily, Mary Kate Carr. Anyway, Justice League Snyder Cut confirmed to have existed since 2019. The DCEU's Justice League Snyder Cut VFX director Tamara Kent saw a full cut of Zack Snyder's original film back in 2019, but we all believed it was real anyway. It was so obvious that people weren't lying about this. Fiona was telling us from the very beginning. It was outrageous that Access Media, fronted by the old regime of WB, tried to convince everyone there was no Snyder Cut. Just shows you what bastards they are in Hollywood, right? Anyway, the long-anticipated Snyder Cut of Justice League has been confirmed to have existed since at least 2019. Justice League, the first team-up film of the DCEU, was originally released in 2017 to mixed reviews. The production had been somewhat beleaguered, with Zack Snyder, the movie's original director, stepping down after a family tragedy. Joss Whedon was brought on to oversee the post-production of the film, and his changes were said to have altered much of Snyder's original vision for the story. Due to these rumoured changes, fans began speculating over the so-called Snyder Cut of Justice League. Rumours swirled that an entirely different version of the film existed, fueled by reports such as the fact that full characters like Darkseid and Martian Manhunter had been removed from the final version of the film. Still, despite viral support for release of Snyder Cut and hints from Snyder himself, not much was known about that version, let alone if it actually existed. When HBO Max announced that Zack Snyder's Justice League would be released on the streaming platform, Snyder Cut believers were validated. Even then, with the director conducting reshoots, it was hard to tell how much of his version truly existed before production began in 2020. But Screen Rant and Mary Kate, the reshoots were minimal. There was very few reshoots, just stuff he This gave Zack an opportunity to add stuff he wanted to do before. We're actually going to get an even more fuller vision of his Justice League movie than we ever would have, thanks to the fans and Zack for fighting for this. Now, fans know that Zack Snyder's Justice League did exist in near complete form, thanks to the movie's visual effects producer Tamara Watts-Kemp. In a reflection posted to Instagram, the VFX director wrote that she had first watched the legendary Snyder Cut in black and white in 2019. What she saw was over 3 hours long, full of pre-visualization and work in progress effects along with finished visual effects. She added that at times Zack had to clarify what I was looking at, but she was fully able to follow the story. So this is what she had to say. What this image means to me. In 2019, Zack invited me to his screening room to see his cut of Justice League. It was in black and white, and it did exist. It was over 3 hours long, full of pre-visualization and work in progress effects along with finished visual effects. At times, Zack had to clarify what I was looking at, yet the story kept my attention the entire time. We then had follow-up meetings and scrubbed the reels talking about his vision for the film and the visual effects, work that would need to be done to see his complete vision on screen. DJ and I put together a budget and scheduled for VFX, and Zack pitched it. Nothing like this has ever been done before. We figured it would never happen. The COVID hit. Zack had a film that was... Then COVID hit. Zack had a film that was already shot. Post can be done safely at home, and the VFX companies needed the work. On April 30th, we were surprised and thrilled to hear the film was a go. It has been the most challenging project I have ever been on. We had 6 months to do 4 hours of effects work. Every shot had to be researched to see if it was a previous Zack final to finish the full frame, or a work in progress shot from the past that could be unarchived and finished, or a brand new shot. The facility spent over a month pulling shots and assets from their archives, while WP pulled assets from theirs. Wow, this is fascinating, and there's more. Zack Snyder's Justice League has also been the most fun and rewarding project I have been on. Zack, Debbie and Wes are the best people to work with. They have always treated their crews like family. They are respectful, inspiring, fun and trusting. Zack knows what he wants and is the first to admit if it's not working. DJ and I were blessed to bring most of our VFX team along. We could not have hit this schedule and delivered Zack's complete vision without them. They kept the show moving forward and dug up archive material we thought would be impossible to find. This team delivered over 2,500 shots in 7 months. This is unheard of. I'm sad to see this project end, but as so grateful to have the opportunity to be part of it. I did this for Zack, the Snyder family and DJ, and for the fans that fought for it and deserve to see Zack's vision. Wow! Wow, isn't she brilliant? And, I'll give you a round of applause when I read your name off the credits, because I always read people's names off the credits. Wow, that was just great, wasn't it? So basically, the article then says she went on to explain, and they just kind of write it on big letters. I read her Instagram post. So it's really great to see people constantly working with the Snyders, saying what an inspiring bunch of people they are and how they treat them as family. I wish people could see the people who happen not to like this family for one reason or the other, to understand these are really, compassionate, loving, creative people. But wow, really great to hear someone, doing the VFX and talking about the challenges. That's really exciting and awesome. It's done. It's completed. Zack Snyder confirms his Justice League cut is finally complete. Nearly 4 years after he left the original production under tragic circumstances, Zack Snyder has finally finished his cut of Justice League. or by Lucas, let's just say Lucas. Almost 4 years after he stepped away from production, Zack Snyder's Justice League is finally finished. Joss Whedon's takeover of the original led to a slew of reshoots and a generally mixed bag of tones, among other lasting problems for DC Entertainment. With the critical and relative box office failure of their big team-up movie, the DCEU was more or less put on hold. And come 2020, the long called for the Snyder Cut was announced. Fast forward another year and about $70 million, and Snyder fans will get exactly what they asked for. Support on this project at last internally is pretty intense. The allegations against Whedon aside, the cast and crews of the collective DCEU seem abundantly pro-Snyder, with Justice League's DP claiming the upcoming Snyder Cut is the only Justice League movie. It's easy to assume that anyone involved in the mess that was Justice League 2017 would simply like to erase it. But Zack Snyder has a very passionate fan base and a history of getting along very well with his co-workers. The Snyder Cut wouldn't have been a concept if there wasn't a massive fan outcry to see his uninterpreted vision. And for that work, they'll be rewarded with all 4 hours of it on HBO Max this March. This is the right way to view it, whatever anyone says. While fans have been waiting for years for Warner Bros. To release the Snyder Cut, the director confirmed on Vero today that work on the movie is finished. When replying to a fan on Vero asking if the cut was done, Snyder simply responded, "It is." A screenshot of Snyder's comments can be seen below, courtesy of Sam Parker Metal. The year leading up to its announcement were laden with fan debates as to whether it could or should exist. Snyder's fans are devoted, but an equal number of DC fans saw his DCEU as bloated and aggressively non-heroic. Even after its announcement, the idea of an even more expansive reshoot and re-edits seemed unnecessary for a movie released a few years ago. Even some DC's execs don't seem to know why they're bothering to make it. The Snyder Cut will in fact be the end of Snyder's involvement with the DCEU. Right, again, they're saying that, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. If this film is successful, it will not be his end, and the end of his involvement with the DC Extended Universe. Plus, some people don't understand why it was done. Well, you're going to fucking understand when you see the film. Thank you. Anyway, with the director previously saying he has no plans to make Justice League 2. He didn't say he had no plans. He said no plans are in place. That said, whether fans believe the DCEU is a good cinematic universe or not, it's commendable that this effort is still being made to let Snyder release his original vision. Though he's a polarizing filmmaker, Snyder is a generally well-liked guy, and nobody who disliked his DCEU movies would have had wished for him to leave it for the tragic reason he did. That's true, although some people are nasty bastards, aren't they? Anyway, tragic reasons he did. The Justice League Snyder Cut will likely be a win for everyone involved. Snyder has finally finished his movie. Fans will get to see the long-awaited Snyder Cut, and Warner Bros. Will probably see an uptick in HBO Max subscribers, as they have from the beginning because of this film. Due to the film, at this point, fans don't even have to wait that much longer, with the film coming out in March. Very, very true. An interesting article which tried to lay some jabs in while trying to be complimentary about Zack Snyder, and I'll say it again. How the film does and what future, and whether we restore the Snyderverse or not, the restoration of the Snyderverse is up to us. Watch the film again and again and again. Tag it, hashtag it, put it out there. If it makes record-breaking money and gives them record-breaking subs, there's going to be more of the Snyderverse. And finally today, in our final article, you're saying thank fuck. James Gunn has even more Suicide Squad spin-off ideas. I'm not surprised. MCU alum James Gunn indicated he may keep developing new DC Extended Universe content after his Suicide Squad spin-off series Peacemaker by Mary Kate Carr. Listen, Mary Kate, this was always a thing. I told you, he's just going literally anything his Guardians characters are involved in with the MCU, he will be in the background, as we know he is, with Thor Love and Thunder, and he's going to do Guardians 3, but once that's done, he's coming back to his new home, the DC Extended Universe, and I'm very happy about that. Say what you want about Gunn, he's a very talented storyteller. James Gunn hinted that he might continue to expand the universe of the Suicide Squad. The first Suicide Squad film, directed by David Ayer, was released in 2016 and widely panned by critics. Gunn, who held Marvel's popular Guardians of the Galaxy films, was brought on to direct the next Suicide Squad film, which will function as something of a soft reboot for DC's famous anti-hero team. It's not a soft reboot, it's not a reboot, it's literally using 2 or 3 or 4 people from the original film. Anyway, the Suicide Squad is slated for August 2021, but it has already spawned the spin-off series for HBO Max, Peacemaker. Gunn's second foray into the DC Extended Universe will see John Cena reprise his Suicide Squad character, whom he has described as a douchey Captain America. The series is a pleasant surprise addition to the DCEU born from Gunn's boredom during the coronavirus quarantine. But actually, that's just James Gunn talking. This was always going to happen. And as he's already said, he's got loads more ideas. While Peacemaker conveniently slotted in between Gunn's commitments to the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, his frankly prolific output has fans wondering if he will continue to expand his corner of the DCEU. In an impromptu mini Q&A, the writer-director answered some fan questions after tweeting an image of his Peacemaker monitor on set. When one Twitter follower asked, "Do you have any ideas for more Suicide Squad spin-offs?" Gunn replied simply, "Yes." And here's the kind of the exchange. Do you have any more Suicide Squad spin-offs? Now, let's say that again, because I'm losing my words here, and it's no good for you guys if I don't bloody read properly. And sometimes it happens, and I apologise. Anyway, do you have any ideas for more Suicide Squad spin-offs? He simply replied, "Yes." I'm very excited about that. Gunn left a few other breadcrumbs for fans to follow in his tweet. He indicated that Peacemaker will introduce new characters and agreed with one fan comparing to the series to the MCU's WandaVision. It's unclear if he was joking in his affirmative response to Peacemaker's vision or if the show really is similar to the genre-bending Meta Disney Plus series. He also professed his love for the Metal Men, a Silver Age era comic book team of artificially intelligent robot heroes, opening up a whole new avenue of DC characters he could potentially explore. I'd love him to do Metal Men. Do you know what? He's going to come back. James Gunn is ours now. After Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he's done. He'll be involved in a background level, but his main work and the thing he's focused on now is his corner of the DC Extended Universe, and that excites me a great deal. It's not a surprise that Gunn has more DCEU ideas. This is one of the most creative superhero franchise directors we're talking about. But it doesn't necessarily mean they'll come to fruition as Peacemaker did. It will. It will. You don't want it to because you're probably an MCU shill, but they will. He's ours now. Get over it. Anyway, come to fruition as Peacemaker did. Still, it's exciting to hear that the Marvel alum is willing to keep playing in the DC sandbox. Not for you. Gunn recently tweeted that The Suicide Squad was the most fun film he's directed in his career, so he very well could continue to develop content with DC and Warner Brothers. He will. DC has had less success in unifying the extended universe than Marvel, but in some ways they've been more willing to take creative risks. Exactly. Shows like HBO Max's Doom Patrol suggest a willingness to invest in quirkier characters. Exactly. While ambitious projects like revamping 2017's Justice League with the Snyder Cut indicates out-of-the-box thinking, these are elements that would seemingly allow a unique filmmaker like Gunn to thrive and flex his creative muscles. Hopefully, the Suicide Squad will make a new era for Gunn and the DCEU. Hopefully, yes. And I think it will. I think this is going to be massive. This is going to be an amazing film. And some of you don't want to hear this. Maybe you don't like James Gunn. Maybe you just want to focus on Zack Snyder, and that's great. I love Zack. And I love what he's done with these DC characters. But it's not all about Zack for me. It's about the whole globe of the DC multiverse. And James Gunn is one of the most talented directors and storytellers out there. We want Gunn involved with the DC Extended Universe. We want the best people involved with our franchise. We don't want to be like Patty Jenkins, who is very talented, who booted out Zack's VFX team. And you're going to see the difference between the VFX in Wonder Woman 84 and in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which tells a story, everyone. So, do you like me reading articles? Does it bore you? Comment down below. I'd love to know. It's probably a bit too long for you, the video. Not many people are going to come in and watch me and see how beautiful I am with my beautiful jumper and my beautiful telly. But never mind. Those of you who stuck with me, I'm very grateful to you. Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon. You thought I'd gone, didn't ya? I just wanted to show you this, right? This is Zack taking a picture of the opening credits of his Justice League movie, and it's in the snow. So obviously we're going to see this. We're going to see a bigger element of this sequence than we did in Justice League. And I'll tell you what it says. It says Director of Photography, Fabian Wagner, ASC, BSc. And you can see Zack there holding his camera and taking the picture. Isn't that awesome? I'm really going now, but this is just part of the celebration, the build-up of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So don't forget, do comment down below, do follow me on Twitter and tag me on Twitter @MoviesTVMag, and I shall see you tomorrow.